During my break of 4 months or so, I've taken time out of my day to play a lot of Brick Hill games. Some of these games can be from build showcases to, well, PvP battle games. And even with the limitations of the Legacy Client and Node Hill, there are some really good games out here. Here are my top 3 picks for some of the best games on Brick Hill. Each game will have different sections of explanation so I can explain each game more in depth. There will be an overview of the game, a look into its mechanics, and how this game stands out over others on Brick Hill. Before I get started, this list is mostly opinion-based, but my opinions are based on how well these games utilize the powers of the Legacy Client, and even push the boundaries of what is deemed possible. So if your personal favorite game isn't on this list, don't complain, as complaining really won't result in anything. Maybe I'll heart your comments sarcastically, I don't know. But without further ado, let's get on to the list. Number 3 on the list is Ultra Dash Racing by Tylerfoot. Ultra Dash Racing is a type of racing game where you run through a race course and compete against your friends to see who's the fastest. You can set up a private lobby to either play with yourself, I think, set up a public lobby to have anyone join you if you give them the code, or join someone else's lobby to play with them by inputting their lobby's code. There are 2 maps in Ultra Dash Racing at the moment, one being Hill Plains and the other being Brick Break Scrapyard. Hill Plains is a simple map with a few shortcuts here and there, with there being one main path to follow. Brick Break Scrapyard, on the other hand, has multiple paths and different ways to get to the finishing plate, the fastest, as well as adding in some new game mechanics for the map. Ultra Dash Racing has a plethora of different mechanics and scripts to make the game unique. First off, the lobby system is a very unique system that hadn't been seen on Brick Hill before the release of Ultra Dash Racing. It uses a 5-digit code system where anyone with the code can join your lobby. Quick matches also exist where you can join anyone at random without making a room or having to input a code. Actually, this is how I presume it works. There's also an avatar mechanic that lets you buy or equip hats for your character, as well as change things like skin tone. Unlike the lobby mechanic, this is a simple mechanic, but still a cool one. Finally, Brick Break Minery has a personal game mechanic that adds another sense of challenge to the mix. Falling tiles. Sure, this might not be much of a big difference, but when playing with your friends, this adds a lot of challenge, especially if you fall off and all of the tiles have been knocked out. The main reason this game stands out is its lobby system. While seemingly overlooked, the lobby system really has never been seen before until now. Being able to play with your friends, and really only your friends, is a cool thing, especially when there's copious amounts of noobs that try to join your game. Another thing that makes this game stand out is that it's just fun. I mean, racing with your friends is always a fun thing to do, especially when one of your friends starts cussing out the other. At that point, just sit back and grab some popcorn while they start insulting each other for 10 minutes. Until they give up, which always sucks. You gotta race again. Number 2 on the list is Survival, also by Tylerfoot. Survival is, as the name suggests, a survival game. It's more or less a survival like Minecraft in a way. A single-player survival game where you collect resources to craft better items, collect food to stay alive, and as well fend off monsters in the night. Monsters like Breakwalker can also be working during the day if you walk too close to where they're sleeping. Their locations can be determined where their brick sticks above the ground. If you run away from it, it will go back to sleep though, while other monsters will spawn in the night. Survival has a pretty simple concept as most other survival games, but does get really complicated after like 2 minutes of playing. Most of the mechanics in this game are based off of a command system that is prominent in most Tylerfoot games, but this one uses it to a bit of a larger extent. Tylerfoot has made a statement recently that he wants to rework the games and not have the mechanics be based off of a command system, so we'll see what he has in store for the future. One of the main mechanics that will have the most impact in your game is crafting. Using the command /craft along with the item that you want to craft, you can craft whatever you want as long as you have the resources in your inventory. You can craft anything from dough to tools such as axes or swords. Another mechanic that is based off of commands is holding items. Essentially, you have an inventory that has all of your items in it, but you can use the /hold command to bring any item to your toolbar to use it. You could hold an apple to eat it, or a sword to attack a monster. That's really all there is to the gameplay aspect. There are little things like zombies rising out of the ground if you walk too close to them or when it turns to night, but those really don't affect gameplay at all. This is really the first survival game. Sure, there are a few PvP survival type games, but not one like this. You don't attack other players, you attack monsters to gain resources to get better equipment, and then rinse and repeat until you've maxed out everything in the game. Still fun, even if it gets a bit repetitive. Another thing that makes it stand out is the custom sound system implemented in the game, titled Soundbrick. Soundbrick is a DDNS server thing that connects to your game and produces sounds for you when you do stuff, as well as play music or other things. You set up Soundbrick by easily going to the linked DDNS site in the game's description if it has Soundbrick enabled, put in your username while in the game, and then type the command /accept when it says if you try to enable Soundbrick. A very cool feature for games that adds a bit more immersion to games you're playing, and it being a bit more of an unused thing makes it unique to see in a game like Survival that's already unique on its own. Before I get on to number 1, as usual, I have one honorable mention. Today's honorable mention is Minehill by Ezcha. Minehill is a game that connects to a real Minecraft server with real players. In Minehill, you can do almost anything you can do in actual Minecraft with a few limitations. But those are only little things. I decided not to include this game on the list because the only real point of it was to showcase that Brickhill is actually able to connect to an entirely other game like Minecraft. A very cool concept indeed, but its purpose is not to emulate Minecraft. Now on to number 1. Separate Game by Smartline. Separate Game is an open-world PvP survival game where you play from a various selection of monsters. You can choose from 5 different monsters: Guna, Magmir, Cyndail Weakling Variant 1, Cyndail Weakling Variant 2, and Shrivark. Each monster has a different moveset as well as different amounts of HP. You can fight against other players to see who wins, and if nobody's on, you can fight bots that spawn around the map, which usually aren't hard to beat with a monster like Guna. But if you're going up as a monster like the Cyndail Weakling variants, it can get a little more challenging, but fun. Separate Game's mechanics are pretty simple. You have an energy bar for attacks, and each attack uses a certain amount of energy, which shows when you select at the top. Depending on the severity of the attacks, it could use a lot of energy, or barely any energy. This bar will gradually increase back up to 100% if you ever use any energy. You also have a stamina bar, which is the amount of stamina you have left during or after sprinting, which will also gradually increase after time. And it doesn't affect your damage of moves or anything other than sprinting. The only other gameplay mechanic are each monster's moveset, which I don't really want to go through, seeing as I'd want to go in depth if I were to cover those. Overall, a pretty simple concept for a game, but here's where it gets interesting. If you haven't seen somehow, this game uses custom 3D models. I mean, the only types of 3D models you'll see in games are hats for you and the other players in-game, and sometimes NPCs, but those are all Brickhill assets. So how does Separate Game get custom 3D models into their game? Well, you know how I said you would only see Brickhill assets? Well, those Brickhill assets are all stored in your app data for Brickhill. So Brickhill can easily fetch those assets when a user is wearing them in-game. This also includes shirts, pants, and t-shirts, but not heads, seeing as those aren't implemented into the legacy client. Knowing that, you're able to add your own message into the game by using a placeholder ID of something like a t-shirt to then add a 3D model into the game using other scripts. Now, if you're wondering why the parts of the 3D model were so high up and so low down when I showed them, it's so that the models don't interfere with the player model, because these models really just act as hats. The reason why there's multiple is because each monster has their own set of animation as well. Now, do you understand why this is so unique? It uses a method to import your own hats into Brickhill using an app data folder I never even knew existed. If this isn't clever, then I don't know what is. Did I mention it's also a fun game? This is by far one of the best games on Brickhill for its use of custom 3D models, something I didn't even know was possible, and being able to make a fun game using these custom 3D models. Thanks for watching. If you find yourself bored, you should definitely try out one of these games if you haven't, as they can be good ways to pass the time. If you enjoyed this video and want to see more from me, consider subscribing. I stream weekly on Saturdays and post videos like these every now and then. That's all from me now. Have a great day and stay safe. Goodbye.